That's good.
Let me move this here.
Well, mhm,
There we go. All right, I think I'm good.
good.
Perfect. All right. Let
Yep.
me see. Live there. Yep. I got audio there. Yep.
So things okay, huh?
I think we're good. Yeah, I think everything's doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah, let's do it for a little while. And, you know, we are only here. And Ellen-san is one of my regular uh, participant of my X in Japanese. So,
Yeah, I've never created a space, and I was trying to do a test run before this, and
mhm,
it would it was constantly crashing every time I tried to make one.
yeah.
So I'm
Well,
glad that it's cooperating.
at least the audience of YouTube can hear me, right?
Yes. Yep. We're good there too.
Ok- ok, good.
But I figure now's a good time to start. I mean, I'm sure I've got some people there already. Um,
Good.
so I wanted to kind of get the perspective of
Mm-hmm.
someone who is Japanese, lives in Japan,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because no matter how much people like me talk about it and say, "Hey, this
Yeah.
is wrong," or "That's wrong," or "This is dumb," it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really affect us in the
Right.
West, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not our culture, it's not our history, it's not
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have anything to do with us. This, as some people like to tell you all the time, this is just a game, right?
Yeah.
But from a cultural perspective, you know,
Mm-hmm.
outside of people like you who are saying, "Hey, this is wrong. Hey, this isn't how things should be," you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit differently when people can hear you talk about it as opposed to, like an
Yeah.
X post where we're just saying, "Hey, no, that's not
Yeah.
right."
Thank you. And also well, I think I've been telling you so many times that when I speak up on Twitter, often people label me as a fake Japanese rapper. I experienced that more than 180 times.
Right. And I've seen people say that, oh, you're, as you put it, Japanese LARPer. I've seen people say, oh, who cares? I've even seen people being just straight up racist to you.
That's true. So yeah, here's York on the Twitter side, and my regular mutual follower.
Yep, there's the man. I was watching him get into it with some people the other day too, and
Yeah.
you know, it's honestly, it's it's interesting to me
Mm-hmm.
how people will defend something they know is wrong, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I know what you mean.
they'll do it because they want to win. They want to
Mm-hmm.
be they want their side to win. They want their game of choice to win. Even though they know it's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. They know what they're saying is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But, no matter how many times people like you or I or
Mm-hmm.
any other countless other people that are saying, "Hey, this isn't a good thing." They
Mm-hmm.
just don't care. And
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering, do you think you're in the minority in Japan, or do you think that there
Mm-hmm.
are other people that feel the same way you do, but they're just not
Mm-hmm.
not speaking up?
Yeah. Well, have I told about talk that I'm contacting closely with those politicians, like Hyogo Prefecture Assembly member Mr. Nagase, and also the upper house member Mr. Kada, who debated with the Prime Minister Ishiba. And actually, I'm contacting these people frequently. So I can say something offshore information of how Japanese politicians are doing right now.
So do you think anything is, in the beginning when the Shrine Association was not,
Hmm.
I don't want to say complaining, when they were upset about this,
Hmm.
people were kind of disregarding and saying that this isn't going to go anywhere. Uh,
Hmm.
I saw people attacking the character of one of the people from the
Hmm.
Shrine Association that was upset by it.
Hmm.
Uh, do you think that now they're taking it a little bit more serious?
Well, I should say, after they kind of waiting, they've been kind of waiting for the game release date because they need to confirm what's exactly the problem. So now they restart all those actions seriously. I mean, not just debate. Well, the goal of the Mr. Kara, upper house member, his debate with Prime Minister Ishiba is very simple. Just one thing. Let Ishiba say he's also concerns about the issue. That's all he wanted. So he only have 10 minutes to talk about issue shadow issue. And the problem is multiple layered problem. I mean, there's a disrespect and violation of Japanese historical cultural entities. That's one thing. And the second one is the Yasuke samurai theory, which is all bullshit. But that also related some diplomatic issue of Japan with African countries. It's
Right.
Japanese internal issue. So uh, the third one is the kind of mislabeling Japan as the anti-black country or something like that, or we are Japan is like a third world country which don't have any freedom of speech kind of thing. That's also not a problem. So Mr. Kada just focus on the you know letting Prime Minister Ishiba he's also concerned with. One is because some politicians and also the ministries were very reluctant to get involved with this issue because, as I say, it's multiple layered issues and a little complicated. So no one really get into it. Also, religious leaders, and they just didn't know what's going on. So Mr. Kada and Mr. Nagase are now working on collecting information, uh, examining what was really going on in the game, and now they are contacting several other temples, shrines, and historical entities to explain what's going on in the game. So those action gets much more serious from now on.
So so you're saying outside of the original complainants, now they're
Hmm.
telling other shrines and other locations that might be
Hmm.
shown in the game, hey, this is in
Hmm.
there. I don't think you knew about it, and this is what's happening. Which I don't know
Yeah.
if you I don't know if you heard or not, but I think they did
Hmm.
a day one patch
Hmm.
of the game to make it where
Hmm.
nothing in the shrine was destructible. They got rid of the destructible environments when it came to the shrines.
Hmm.
And I don't think I've seen any confirmation as to whether or not that was strictly
Uh,
Japan
it's
or
not true.
everybody. Oh, it's not.
Well, we also needed to examine what the day one patch is really like. So we confirmed it. And some of the what the Itate Shrine, that controversial one, still uh, you can destroy.
Oh,
Not as hard as we saw in the video, but softened, but still destructive.
okay. So when they're saying, "Oh, you can't do this anymore," that's not true. It's still
No,
what might
well,
be
we
considered
confirmed it.
disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah, we confirmed it. And also there was a rumor Yasuke and Naoya can get into the Kohun, which is the ancient royalty's tomb, and we confirmed it.
So,
So it's going to be another very serious political issue.
do you think the um, I think the pronunciation is Oichi,
Yeah,
the
Oich,
the
yes.
Oich, the
Hmm.
ancestor of the modern day royal family. I
Yep,
don't. I think that's starting to become a thing too.
right. Well, of course, it's, romance in the fictions, legal wise, it's okay, but it's very disrespectful, as well as a violation and coffin tombs, ancient tombs. So people get more serious about it.
Yeah, yeah, and that.
And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
mm, go- mm. and one other fact is, Ubisoft never ever respond back to the old shrines and temples. They made up the day one patch, but no response, no answer to the shrines and temples. That also made them so pissed.
Well, yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, and this is where I think there's that sort of disconnect between the company and
Hmm.
people that either are affected by cultural issues such as yourself, and then people like myself and others in the West that are going, "Hey, this isn't right." And I
Yeah,
think there was just a complete disregard of all of that,
yeah,
both from the company and the fans.
yeah. The only one case that Ubisoft responded is to Sekigahara Rifle Corp, which was used their own intellectual property in the art book. But they needed to contact to Ubisoft again and again and again. And they only after that they only get the 3 lines response. They can delete out of the that sign from artwork. That's pretty much everything they did to Japan. And plus, and in the comment from Ubisoft, it sounded like they apologized. They had rifle corps people are okay with it now. This is also bullshit. Now
So
all those information. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say. So what you're saying is that when you see these people saying that everything has kind of been smoothed over and nobody cares, the fact of the matter is that for you in Japan, it is an issue. There is a problem.
Yep. Yep. And also problem even at the level of higher politicians and the top religious leaders. This is true.
So do you think? And I hesitate to say this because I'm one of those people that actually liked the Assassin's Creed
Mhm.
games and their various
Mhm.
iterations. I even liked Valhalla, right? And a lot of people
Mhm.
say there's historical and cultural issues with that game, right?
Mhm.
But I think what's different with Shadows is that right out
Mhm.
of the gate you
Mhm.
ran into the issue of something being controversial with Yasuke, right?
Mhm.
And I think I spoke to Doctor Nod, and I believe that's how you say his last name, Nod on X.
No day. No day.
Node,
Yeah, no,
yes, uh huh.
yes.
And I asked him because he seemed to be one of the only people going, "Hey, as you put it, all of this is bullshit. This
Uh-huh.
isn't a legendary samurai. This isn't
Mhm.
some great historical figure in Japan as they're trying to make it." And I think that in itself causes a whole bunch of problems.
Right, right. And funny thing is, Yasuke exists. existed, yes, but not many people know about him. He's just a trivial figure in you know in history. We only have very limited historical record about him, so not many people don't know who the Yasuke is. And I myself didn't know that Yasuke samurai theory until last June, after I stepped into all the controversial things of the Yasuke on the Ascari Shadows. Until that time, most of Japanese never even heard of Thomas Lockley and his Yasuke samurai theory. Serious.
Yeah,
Some game fans, yeah, some game fans and anime fans knew about Yasuke because those fictions use Japanese fictions use Yasuke as a character, but everybody knows he's not really samurai. But all of a sudden we found out outside of Japan, Yasuke is a legendary warrior.
right, and
That's totally bullshit.
I think from what I read was that Yasuke as a figure in Japanese history didn't even really become a thing until I think somewhere around the 60s or the 70s where he was mentioned, not in, mentioned in
Mm-hmm.
like a children's book or something to that effect.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but again, as
True.
you put it, as a minor character in Japanese history, right? In which case,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how a company like Ubisoft can fumble the ball so
Mm-hmm.
hard with Shadows when there's a huge desire
Mm-hmm.
for Japanese historical games, and
Mm-hmm.
we saw that with Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima was a huge hit, huge,
Mm-hmm.
because there was, and again, that's a fictional game, right? This isn't a historical game outside of, I believe, when the Mongols invaded Japan way back when.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just they're not trying to create a narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's so many huge figures in Japanese history
Mm-hmm.
that why pick the one minor character that we know hardly anything about
Mm-hmm.
and then throw him in a game, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I both know why they did it,
Yeah, sure.
but
That's for sure.
that just tells me that these people have become so detached. These companies have become so detached from reality that
Mm-hmm.
everything is about virtue signaling rather than actually trying to make
Yeah.
something enjoyable or respectful in this case.
Yeah. True. And say last May, you know, Ubisoft Ubisoft first announced about AC Shadows. Most of the Japanese are okay with black protagonist because we don't know the game, and we didn't notice that this is the political agenda more than the pure entertainment. So, you know, people like me step in those conversations. Well, Yasuke, you can call Yasuke samurai somehow if you define samurai equals any non-civilian under the samurai clan. But he never was a warrior. That's a kind of regular common sense kind of thing. Then people who support or who defend Ashi Shadows or so-called fan media or game media guys start attacking. You are fucking LARPer. You're not Japanese.
Right, and
And
that's what's amazing about this whole thing is that when people like you who are Japanese, who do should
mhm,
have a say in this,
mhm,
you know, you get attacked.
yeah, as
and
I
it,
said, I've been labeled a fake Japanese LARPer more than 180 times, and labeled as a racist almost 50 or 60 times. Or sometimes those guys label whole Japanese anti-black racist. This is not true. That's being weird.
Do
That's
you
been strange.
do you think that a lot of this has to do with, and I'm just speculating here, but do you think a lot of this has to do and go back to Thomas Lockley's book when it comes to this stuff?
Yes, yes. And apart from this AC Shadow's, particularly AC Shadow game, and politicians also try to attack uh, Thomas Locke's book and some Japanese supporter of his book. Well, actually, there are a few scholars and activists support Thomas Locke's book. Well, not as a say academic theory, but you know, basically protecting him as he's just a novelist. It's no big deal. No one in the world believes Yasuke is really the warrior. They're using all those bullshit for long. So politicians going to clarify Yasuke is just a trivial figure in Japanese history, and all those stories made up by Thomas Lockley is spreading all over the world, but it's all bullshit. That's one of the goals of the politicians are doing now.
Right, and
It may
that's
take time. Go ahead.
no. I was gonna say that, ever since the Yasuke argument arose,
Hmm.
even here in the West,
Hmm.
in the U.S. and the U.K., I've seen people going, "Hey,
Hmm.
wait a minute." For those of us that have a genuine interest in Japanese history, in my case, it's
Hmm.
Japanese military
Hmm.
history.
Hmm.
You know, this was a non-issue up until recently, and you would
Hmm.
see
Right.
Yasuke references in like anime or video games,
Hmm.
right? But there was no push for
Hmm.
this so-called legendary status, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then of course when you tell people that, then they get upset because and you know this, oh, you're a racist, oh, you just hate black people or this, that, and the other,
Hmm.
and it's not even about that. It's about historical accuracy.
And they are using those, made up historical facts, so called, as for the DEI political agenda. And like the romance between Yasuke and the Lady Oichi, also it seems like they are trying to conquer the Japanese history by, black, uh, sleeves or whatever. That's very weird. And we found it.
do
So
you,
we got to fight back.
do you think that, and I don't know if you answered me earlier or not, do you think that you're in the minority when it comes to this issue, or do you think that there are others, around you that feel the same way, but they're just not being too
Yeah,
vocal about it?
yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, this issue is not huge in Japan. Only among some of the people on the Twitter or or not big, not many people are in this discussion. But when it's talked about, people who talked about the games, talk about Yasuke, we are majority. Yeah, of course we have, you know, AC Shadow's defenders, fanboys in Japan. They are also blaming us as activists. To them, we are the activists. But yeah, again, from now on, politicians would make more actions, and some media, mainstream media, also pick up this whole thing. So if so, you know, it's getting much bigger. Right now, very small fire, but that will spread, I believe.
Right, and I think that as it bleeds over into, as I like to put it, normie culture, right? It's people that aren't
Yeah.
tuned into the internet or video games or anything like that start to hear more about it. I think,
Yeah.
as you put it, I think it's going to get bigger. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've kept up with the numbers. I have because I am
Mm-hmm.
invested in this.
Mm-hmm.
But the Steam sales of the game itself,
Mm-hmm.
this is, I know it's Sunday for you, but it's Saturday for me.
Mm-hmm.
It can't break 60,000 players on Steam. And Steam is a
Mm-hmm.
massive platform. I mean, you and I both know that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it just can't. It just can't. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because it's been so, I don't want to say politicized because it's not
Mm-hmm.
politicized. I think that they've done enough things wrong that
Mm-hmm.
people like me that would have just thrown money at it to get a game like that
Mm-hmm.
are so turned off that they don't want to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely don't understand it. I really don't, because as I said before, there's so much in Japanese history to
Mm-hmm.
build off of, to even make countless numbers of games out of.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the direction they went in, and it just, it's mind-boggling to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Regarding, share more information about this problem, some Japanese liberals will help us because they use the same narrative as in the liberals in the States. You know, Japan is anti-black. They start saying that. So people will notice more about it. And also, uh, some, you know, game defenders saying Japan don't understand the freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And some Japanese liberals also following that attacking this game means that showing the Japanese people that Japan is so behind. We don't really pay respect to the freedom of expression. So that would cause much more problem, controversial issues in Japan. And I'm kind of glad that they start doing it. That was that can be the starting point that more Japanese know about what's really going on here.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't know how big. You mentioned it earlier.
Mhm.
I don't know how big the quote unquote DEI problem is over there, as opposed to
Mhm.
over here. Over here it became a massive problem. But I don't
Mhm.
know how that has carried over to Japan and to everyday life over
Mhm.
there. You know, to the point
Yeah.
where at
To
least
be
over here.
honest, yeah. To be honest, these say 9 months or so, it's been a great learning process for me, as well as many other Japanese, to learn what's the DI means, what's the real problem of DEI in the Western countries. We didn't know that. Now some of us really learn what's the problem there.
Right, and that's what I'm wondering and you brought up activists in Japan that are defending the game, and that's kind of the same thing that we were running into over here, especially
Hmm.
when it comes to video game journalism and the games
Hmm.
industry in general, where
Hmm.
you have, I don't know if you saw it or not, but where you had this slew of articles that came out that were
Hmm.
all talking about how great the game is and how it's, Ubisoft's best thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's, that's what I mean when I say that over here we've been dealing with that problem of knowing that these
Hmm.
people are only doing it because of an agenda, because
Hmm.
of the wanting their side to win,
Hmm.
as opposed to, hey, this isn't right, and it's not right, but you're gonna
Hmm.
defend it anyway. And
Yeah.
that's that's honestly kind of sad, right? Because especially when it comes to somebody else's culture, it's funny how there's people like myself that are saying, hey, this is offensive, and yet the side that screams about things being offensive and being insensitive
Mhm.
and everything else are the ones that are doing it now when it because it's their favorite game series, game franchise, you know?
Yeah. And those Japanese leftists and accusing people like me as the ultra right nationalists or whatever, and they also saying that DI means anti-racism. So if you are against DEI, you are racist. Hey, those DEI people in America obviously discriminating Japanese culture. So, which is the racist? That's a simple question, but they never answer.
Right.
Don't complain against DEI people or UBI. They are anti-racist. Seriously, some of them are saying so. All
So
bullshit.
so by that same token, by that in that line of thinking, do you think that there's
Mhm,
a push now, or you think there's going to be a push to sort of maintain the Japanese identity? Because when you look at kind of what
mhm,
this game did, it caused a
mhm,
whole host of problems. You know, Japanese
mhm,
people are. I've seen so many people talking about Japanese people are xenophobic and Japanese people are racist. You know,
mhm.
they just they don't want a black samurai. You know,
Yeah, yeah, we gotta fight back about it again. I don't know how much we can do it, but we gotta fight back. In fact, Japanese don't really know those anti uh, population of black people in Japan are very small, and most of them are very decent people living in Japan together with local Japanese in harmony. So, and also Japan doesn't have the historical cultural background of anti-black. I don't say there's no racism in Japan, but nothing particularly against black people. So,
well, I hate to say this, but I think a lot of our experience when it comes to black people in Japan are unfortunately related to people like Johnny Somali.
mhm.
You know, where we see all these nuisance streamers that are over there causing trouble
Yeah,
and
but morons
very
are
little people
morons.
like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, morons are morons in any race, in any country. Of course, there are many white morons, you know,
Oh, of
those
course.
tourists who's acting like Japan is like their own amusement park, but we hate them. But Johnny Small is one big symbol of those morons. But it doesn't mean we hate black, particularly black. We hate morons. Doesn't
Right.
matter, no matter what skin color you have.
Yeah, I think that's kind of universal.
Yeah.
So, one of the and I wanted to bring this up because I know you were one of the people that said my video about Yasuke was kind of spot on with the analogy I made with my wakizashi that I have about
Hmm.
how I know a little bit about it, right? There's very
Hmm.
limited information about it, but it's very easy to start tacking on extra information that doesn't exist or isn't real
Hmm.
and then say it's a fact, right?
Hmm.
And I'm genuinely I'm I'm sad
Hmm.
that people's exposure to Japan,
Hmm.
usually
Hmm.
boils down to one of two things, either anime or video games, right?
Hmm.
Unless you've actually lived there or visited there, or in your case, you're from there and you live there.
Hmm.
So you hear a lot of opinion. There's a lot of noise coming
Hmm.
from people that are not Japanese, that are
Hmm.
not, you know, familiar with the culture, You know, the
Mm-hmm.
only information that they have comes from the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's good to actually hear it, like we're doing
Mm-hmm.
now, from somebody that it actually has an effect on, and who
Mm-hmm.
actually should have a say in how people behave when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to, you know, your history, your culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because I was seeing a lot of uh, I'm just gonna call him Bun because I can't say his whole name,
Mm-hmm.
but Bun is British, living in Japan, has been there for many
Mm-hmm.
many years,
Mm-hmm.
and then same situation with you where he's familiar with the culture, he's familiar with the people, and the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that people do is say, "Oh, you're not Japanese, you don't have a say," or
Mm-hmm.
"You're pretending to be Japanese." Same thing they say to you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's it's a good thing to me to see people that are there that are non-native Japanese defending the culture,
Mm-hmm.
or at least trying to. And yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with Western views on race and
Yeah.
Western view.
Let me say. Yeah,
No, go
let me
ahead.
say two things about him. Uh, you you are talking about the Mr. Bunbu Ryodo. He's a Iaido master, Japanese traditional sword martial art, and he's a master for Dan. Top uh, fourth grade or Dan. Anyway, he's a master. So most of the Japanese automatically pay respect his achievement, pay respect for his achievement because being a Iaido master isn't an easy thing. It's a big deal. Also, especially for Iaido, they have to have some spiritual slash mental training and need to know some of the behavior, not just a small scale, some behavior as a classic martial artist. So automatically he's a big big guy. I mean, Japanese respect him, but you know people don't know about it. Just attacking him as a samurai wannabe or stuff like that, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is, here's one of the reasons why I step into this uh, Yasuke things. Because I've been in touch with him for long on Twitter, and he's been attacking as a white samurai wannabe kind of things again and again, even before the Ishi Shadow things. So I stepped into the conversation and the samurai definition of samurai or Yasuke samurai or that kind of conversation as Japanese. Well, at least Yasuke never was a warrior. Then people started attacking me. So I joined this chaotic situation. So real bad guy is that Bunburyodo, not me.
Right. No, and I actually spoke to him asking if he wanted to talk about this, and he said I would love to, but this is too radioactive for me. I think he was more concerned about saying something that he was gonna regret, you know, because you see
Yeah.
how uh, passionately, I guess, he defends Japanese culture, and for
Yeah.
good reason, right?
Yeah.
But one conversation that I had with him was about the female sumo wrestler that they threw in
Mm-hmm.
the game, and
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, I love sumo wrestling. I actually
Yeah.
follow a YouTube channel that gives me weekly
Mm-hmm.
videos of the sumo tournaments, and I remember him posting the picture, and I was like, no, 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 that's not. There's no way that
Mm-hmm.
that can't be right. And sure enough, you know, they went the full route of big, strong female sumo.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the culture surrounding sumo, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ceremony, the tradition, and it feels
Mm-hmm.
like they just took that. And again, there's so
Mm-hmm.
much to work with. There's so much information to go
Hmm.
off of. They just went, nope, woman sumo. Here you go.
Yeah, right. That's not a big headache about Ubisoft. See, again, Japanese are basically generous about weird depicts of Japan in the foreign fictions like Hollywood movies or game or whatever. We don't really care. We even love the Blood Train movie. It's full of shit, but it's a good comedy. The problem is, Ubisoft kept saying that respect to Japanese culture. We had a lot of research on Japanese things and all those bullshit. If they didn't say that, backlash never would be this harsh. See, if you want to make a crappy things, just saying that we're gonna make a crappy things, that's fine. You know, if we want to make an extreme fantasy Japan fiction, okay, go ahead. We don't care. But you know, Ubisoft keeps saying this is authentic, this is accurate, this is based on the deep research of Japanese culture and all those bullshit. That's why we pick nitpicking all those small stupid things in the games.
Right, and the people that they picked is their historical experts, and I'm putting air quotes,
Mm-hmm.
are people that I would not have chosen. Let me just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of them was an expert in uh, monks' relationships with young boys in feudal Japan or something like that.
Yeah, yep.
And then, of course, Thomas Lockley, one of the others.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
one thing I just found out yesterday from people that are already finishing the game is that when you go through these 2 hour long credits
Mm-hmm.
of bullshit, as you said
Mm-hmm.
multiple times, I think
Mm-hmm.
there's maybe only 3 Japanese names in that entire
Mm-hmm.
2 hour long credit list. So
Yeah,
what were they doing?
and also the, we couldn't find several Japanese names who's supposed to be in that project. And actually, Ubisoft used to mention some of the, real scholar is involved, but we didn't find any name. Instead, we found another historian, uh, Professor Nakajima, but we didn't know he's also in this project. So, Sankei News reporter would have an interview with Professor Nakajima, how he committed to the game. I don't think he would Professor response back to the reporter, but we will try.
So is this somebody I'm not familiar with him. I've never even heard that name before. Is this
Not me
another
neither.
is this another historian at a university or
Yeah, university historian. What kind of big name in this field? That
huh?
his only Japanese name in the long credit roll, who's supposed to be the kind of consultant of Japanese culture. Other two are not any sort of consultant or historian or a cultural thing. And that uh, female Japanese so-called consultant who's specialized, she is specialized in the boys' love in the history, as you mentioned, and she's a part of the. She's one of the Japanese feminists, and she's also very close to the Japanese historian Oka Mihoko, who's supporting Thomas Lockley.
Now her I have
So
heard of.
yeah, Oka Mihoko's husband is a Portuguese historian teaching at a university in Japan. But he's one of the, you know, epicenter of Yasuke Samurai theory. And wife, Professor Oka, is supporting Thomas Lockley. Seems like a close friend. used to be close friends. This is true. Now she's hiding any sort of relationship with Thomas Lockley, still defending him.
So
Of course, she can't say. Of course, she can't really say Yasuke was a samurai, as Thomas Lockley said, but she's somehow defending Lockley. And that consultant of the game, AC Shadows, also part of those feminist or liberal group in Japan. They are, you know, they are in the same gang group.
right, and I think that's part of that bleed over that I was trying to get at earlier of Western liberalism and race relations and stuff like that that
Yeah.
sort of in I don't want to say infects, but
Mhm.
gradually makes its way into other countries, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I saw when I was starting to realize
Mhm.
that this was becoming a big deal, I found a correspondence
Mhm.
thread of
Mhm.
university professors, people in
Mhm.
higher learning that were discussing Yasuke and Thomas Lockley's
Mhm.
book. And one of them flat out said that I don't want to deny this fiction because then I'll be siding with the racists, right? I'll be siding with
Yeah.
the quote unquote alt right. I'll make people mad,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to say anything, even though I don't agree with it. And it's as someone who loves history, that's incredibly concerning to see, at
Yeah.
least from me, of people that are scared to speak up and say, "Hey, this isn't right,"
Mhm.
because they're worried they're going to get screamed at or called names or, you know,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word, canceled by the other side.
Yeah. Good. See, that's one of the motivation of Dr. Node Ararik, who wrote a book, True Truth About Yasuke Myth, and also he just made a paper, academic paper on Yasuke issues. He's not a historian, but he's a linguist who can read classic Japanese, classic Chinese, classic Portuguese, English, French, and others language. So he's the best one to examine whole bits and pieces of the historical record about Yasuke. Some in old Spanish as a report from missionary to the Jesuit headquarters. You know, bits and pieces of all those things in the several different languages and old Japanese as well. And which is kind of difficult for modern Japanese like myself, but he could read it. He can read it. So he put all those bits and pieces together and make academic paper. So you know, Mr. Arik's book and his account. If you have a chance, please into this is a real academic paper or very say detailed book about Yasuke's historical figure. So please share that information. That's the real thing, not academic bullshit in Japan and in the West. Yeah, I've had some historian, some academic people can't about speak up about Yasuke because it's a political issue already. But reason why Dr. Arik could wrote this book is he's a professor at a Korean university. He's out of those academic chaotic politics. He's free from it. That's why he wrote that book.
Yeah, and I'll link that PDF download in my video on YouTube.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I actually read it when he released it on X,
Hmm.
and excuse me, it was, as you put it, it was about as uh, inoffensive and just straight to the point from
Hmm.
a history perspective as you're gonna get when it comes to this Yasuke argument,
Hmm.
because he deals only in facts, right?
Hmm.
He only
Yes.
deals in what we know. And one of the things that I saw from another professor in the whole Yasuke argument was the fact that a lot of this could have been avoided if
Mhm.
Thomas Lockley had said that 95% of his book was speculation and not presented as a
Mhm.
fact, right? Because now you
Mhm.
have an entire audience, an
Mhm.
entire Western part of the population that thinks it's truth,
Mhm.
which is not good.
Yeah, that's something we gotta fight back. And those politicians already know the Doctor Notice works. I'm not sure they've already read it, but they know there's a scholar who's really examining all the bullshit about the Yasuke samurai theory. So I'm trying to connect uh, Dr. Node and those politicians.
Oh, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And just listening to him speak about it, he doesn't pull any punches. He's not trying to he's not trying to please anybody. He's just dealing strictly in facts. Like he's not trying to make anybody happy. He flat out says, "This is what
Mhm.
we know. This is what you
Yeah.
get."
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, please share information about the Dr. Node's book and his paper with your audience.
So, do you think that in the long run this is going to
Mhm.
be like a learning experience for other companies when it comes to Japanese history?
You mean
You,
game companies?
well, in general, game companies, movies. I see a
Hmm.
lot of people that like using the movie The Last Samurai as kind of a gotcha, right? Of people being okay with
Hmm.
there being a quote unquote white samurai, but
Hmm.
not realizing that that movie, the white samurai isn't the focus of that movie. It's the samurai themselves.
Sure. Basically, Tom Cruise is just a witness of the Last Samurai group in that movie. That's why it's a hit in Japan. A good movie. I love it. Of course, there's the several weird aspects of Japan, but still, it's okay. Uh, We really feel the respect for Japan in the movie. We love it. And what's more, the movie became more enjoyable for Japanese because the characters kind of mix up of the existed ca- uh, historical figure, like a politician. Oh, maybe this part is a Okuma, this part is a blah, 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 blah. Like also Watanabe Kenshiro is obviously based on the Saigo Takamori, but the some of the lines he said is enemy of Saigo as samurai group. So he's a mix. The character is mixed up with the old-fashioned samurai from here and from that, and modern Japanese politicians like from here and from there. So we can also enjoy that kind of guessing game.
Well, one
Also regarding go ahead.
no no no. I'll let you finish that thought because this is kind of goes along with what you're saying.
Yeah. So regarding the companies you mentioned, we already know the Broadway musical will start in the next year winter season. Broadway musical of Yasuke
Wait, what?
and Okamihoko and the other Japanese historian is also committed to the project that I know.
Wait, that's a thing?
So yeah,
Oh
and
no.
I can't really say we can erase all those bullshit soon, but we gotta keep fighting against all the bullshit. And one other thing I'd like to really put emphasis on is Japan is okay with fictions and freedom of expressions. as far as it's respectable, or even the crappy ones are okay if they really say it's a crappy fantasy based on Japanese culture or Japanese history. It's full of fantasy fictions. That's okay. We don't care. So if those companies don't do the things what Ubisoft did, we respect you, but at the same time we spit on your thighs, kind of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
As far as or making up the historical facts that Yasuke has been the legendary samurai who changed Japanese history, kind of bullshit. If they don't do that, we are okay, and we also want to keep the freedom of expression. That's for sure.
Right, and that's the thought that I was gonna kind of go with is I've been playing Rise of the Ronin instead of
Mhm.
Assassin's Creed Shadows to kind of scratch that itch.
Mhm.
And when you play
Yeah.
that game, that that game is basically around the when the black ships came to Japan, right? When America
Hmm.
was trying to open up trade with Japan, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of historical truths in the game, right?
Hmm.
Even though
Yep.
it's a game, right? They're
Hmm.
not they're not trying to be 100% historically accurate, right? And
No.
and one of the things which I know Team Ninja, the developers that made the game, are based out of Tokyo, is there you can have a black samurai, a black
Hmm.
ronin, you can have a white ronin, you can have a white
Hmm.
samurai,
Hmm.
but they're not saying this is historically accurate, 100%. It's just a fun game. And I think they
Right.
did the same thing with Nioh, Ninja Gaiden, stuff like that, where
Hmm.
there's some truth to it, right? But there's not, as you put it, there's so much of a backlash because Ubisoft made a big deal of saying, oh, we have these consultants to make everything uh, correct.
Yeah.
So I get
That's
what
a
you're
problem.
saying. I get what you're saying
Yeah.
about Japanese people being okay with fantasy and with depictions of
Mhm.
of your culture, of your history, as long as it's
Mhm.
done in a respectful way, right?
Yeah. Or don't don't bluff. We are accurate, kind of bullshit. If they don't say that, that's fine. Also, funny thing is, many Japanese Yasuke fans, I mean, Yasuke as a fictional characters, and they hate AC Shadow's Yasuke because it's really disrespectful real Yasuke and Yasuke as a characters. You know, in the game, Yasuke is treated like a very, say, uh, vicious barbarian, killing Japanese people around. So it's such a waste of Yasuke as a fictional resources and as well as a you know lovable character of Yasuke.
Well,
Or even for even for real Yasuke, he's a poor guy. From Africa to somewhere in Goa and in India, in Japan. Very very say sad life history. So we should pay more respect for him. That's some Japanese people are saying.
so I was gonna ask is that I know he's not entirely well known over there, but as a whole,
Mhm.
Japanese people don't really have a problem with Yasuke, right? They don't have a problem
Not at all.
because it's he did exist. He was a you know he was a part of history,
Yeah.
but
And it's also free to, yeah, go ahead.
it's that push to make things be truth that art. I think
Mhm.
is what you're saying is the problem.
Yeah. It's also, it's free that we can use our imagination to make a, you know, the character of Yasuke in the fiction, it's free. We can enjoy it, but not like political agenda way, DI way. That's what I tried to say.
Right? No, I
Hope
get
I'm
it.
making sense.
No. That makes perfect
Okay.
sense. I get it. That's why I was saying. That's why I was curious about the view over there when it comes to these leftist liberal views of equality and racial issues, stuff like that.
Yeah. See, that's why. Well, not we. I mean, at least I myself and the guys that I know really hate Asian shadows and the defenders that try to label as a racist, anti-black racist, Japanese xenophobic. You know, even they will say Japan is anti-sexual minorities. All those bullshit we hate, and that's why I love to join this session to share the real information, what's going on in Japan, what Japanese really feel about it, and hope you people can share those information uh, to the people just your neighbor or your mutual followers, whatever. Please do. That'll help us a lot.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to speak to you, was to kind of, because what matters is what you think, what people like you think, not what I think, not what the French think, not what the Canadians think. What do the Japanese people think about all of this? Because that's who it affects, right? It doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican. I can care less, right? Now, of course, if they pop up with some Aztec warrior that didn't exist and start trying to rewrite history, then I might get a little bit upset.
So, what else should I talk?
uh, whatever you want. I think you kind of answered all the questions I have. One of the people that's in here is Moisgarth, who is, I think he's listening now. Uh, he wanted to ask you a couple questions because he's one of the guys that I stream with on Sundays. So
Okay.
he's used to talking in public.
Yeah.
But
Or any question?
I think he has to I think he has to request the ability to talk. Or York, if York has
Uh,
any questions. I think you pretty much answered all of mine. I
and Yoke is also my mutual. So we share the idea or opinions all the time, and also he expressed his feeling. And I guess really understands Japanese generally not anti-black. And one question my side is how black people who criticizing the game uh, reacted by those DEI people. I know some black people also labeled as a fake black or something like that.
Oh yeah,
So,
he was getting a lot of that.
so now I have a much more rapper club members. So, girls, please.
Testing.
I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. First of all, hello. Uh,
Hello.
from hello from Oregon.
Mhm. Yeah, I
I
can hear
heard
you.
I heard hello from Oregon and then it cut off. I don't know if he can. We call him Pug. I don't think. I think Pug broke.
Hello?
There you are.
Are you there?
Now, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, first up, how you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you. I'm fine.
Um, and then the main question I want to ask, you actually kind of answered um, the other question I wanted to ask, but and this is both for my personal curiosity and kind of, and but it'll also play into um, how severely this issue is seen in Japan. Is my understanding of Japanese social culture is
Mhm.
that it is largely very respectful and not, I wouldn't say non-confrontational, but confrontation minimizing.
Mhm.
Is that assessment essentially correct?
I guess so. Uh, the Japanese don't really want a conflict, and you know, we have a word called "read the air," which means you know, i- without any verbal or non-verbal communication, just guess what's really going on. How should I behave? And the things. So, well, I guess you're right, but let's say we don't really talk about. We don't really talk about it. We don't really say. How to say? We don't
Yeah,
really
it's
think. Yeah, think about it.
yeah, it's how your culture is developed. Whereas it's kind of baked into our DNA. Americans have a rather confrontational culture.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, no, and my reason for asking that, like I said, it was kind of a personal curiosity. I wanted to hear from somebody who is actually from Japan about that. And two, and two is um, and two is um, with everything you said, this seems like it's actually starting. This whole thing with shadows actually seems like it's starting to become a big deal in Japan.
Not that big deal. In fact, sales of Assassin's Creed series itself not big in Japan as in the rest of the world. I heard the most sold title was something like 40,000 copies at most in Japan.
Okay.
So the issue is not that big yet, but it's getting bigger. Not as a
Yeah,
game,
and I mean,
also the yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, because of the cultural issues, I mean, I know that, one of the things I do know about Japanese culture is, while, there's been a shift, like here in America, there's been a
Mhm,
shift kind of away from religion. Um,
mhm.
there's a deep reverence for shrines and other similar sites in Japan. And when I saw the destructibility of the one shrine in the gameplay footage, I'm like, that's going to be a problem,
Yeah, it is. Not
and
only that, yeah, go ahead.
oh, no,
Yes.
no, no, oh, no, 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 no. I kind of burped a little. I'm sorry.
Okay. Not only the distraction at the shrine, also the response by Ubisoft to those religious people, religious leaders. They never answer back, and also they mixed up with the Buddhism and the Shintoism and all those things. And then still they keep saying that they had a huge research in Japanese culture. That made us so pissed. And see, at the same time as the Mr. Kada, upper house member said, recently you have a problem by the foreign tourists, the vandalism at those, shrines and temples, as if they are playing around at their own amusement park. That's getting serious problem more and more.
Yeah, I've
My
seen I've seen a
personal,
couple of videos
yeah.
about that, and
So
that's just
Well, I think I'm going to chime in here. I think a lot of that has to do also with that fear of nuisance streamers, right? And
Yeah,
I've seen TikTok videos of people doing like pull ups on Tory gates and
yeah,
climbing on castle walls.
right. See, yeah, of course, you know, there's one kind of idea that game doesn't escalate those vandalism. Game is still fiction. Yeah, true, but obviously there are morons who are influenced by gaming and doing the same stuff. Well, legal wise, that's different thing, but that's our concerns. And Ubisoft of never ever really respond back those concerns that we have. That made us so pissed. That's one of the another reason. Some of the other reasons why we are so pissed. They never pay any respect to Japan, UBI.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah, so go ahead.
oh no, no, and I mean, also another reason I wanted to talk is, I actually just enjoy talking to people from other parts of the world, um, unlike a stereotypical American. Um, but and it's one thing to take somebody's culture and you know make a fiction out of it or something like that, but it's another to completely disrespect it and if you'll forgive the language, throw it in the toilet and shit on it. And it seems like
Yeah,
Ubisoft has done the latter here.
yeah, that's the point. That's the point.
So
And if it seems, and I'm sorry if it seems like I'm blunt, but I'm from a rural area, and in the United States, people from rural areas tend not to mince words.
yeah,
Mhm.
he's your
So
stereotypical white gun owner living in the woods, fighting
not
That's
far from
great.
it, actually.
fighting brown bears and whatnot.
Black bears, we don't have brown bears here.
Well, all kinds of
Too far,
bears.
too far south. Um, but yeah, no. But thank you for answering my questions. And I'll hop off so somebody else can get on and uh, ask questions. It's good talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
See you
Yep,
tomorrow,
thank
buddy.
you. Later.
I think York got
Yo,
his. There he is.
is this on? Is this on?
Yep, we can hear you.
Alrighty. First, before I even ask, it's so nice to like be in this space with y'all. This has been like really entertaining so far. This whole
Thank
discourse,
you.
man, it's just been wow, it's just been like a roller coaster, honestly. I don't know what to say. But yeah, okay, so to my question,
Mhm.
do we feel like this is the end of Ubisoft?
Probably
Because
not.
this is
Uh,
like a very big game, right? Very, very big game. They call their games like what quadruple A now. That's how good, well, they think they are. So with them like making it seem like a success, even though it's really not, we see them
mhm.
posting they have like 1 million players, 2 million players, but we haven't heard anything officially about sales.
Yeah, right.
Like there has been no official mention from them about sales. So like it's obviously not looking good for them right now.
Yeah.
So what do you think on that?
Well, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know much about the business. Well, of course, they are not in a healthy condition. That's true. And personally, I wish uh, they are bankrupt until they pay compensation to those temples and shrines and cultural entities. They need
Mm-hmm.
to pay big compensation. Uh, they're still alive until they pay those compensation. But oh, at the same time, I wish they bankrupt very soon. Excuse me, could you give me 2 minutes? I got a phone call. Please, just 2 minutes. I'll be back soon.
Sure.
All right. Gotcha.
So I think for me to chime in here, I don't think this is going to be the end of Ubisoft. I say that because I know that they're, for instance, Tencent. I know Tencent is chomping at the bit to watch these people fail so they can take over. I think we might see like a different iteration of Ubisoft, right? Rather than this current regime that they have going on. but
Review.
but to get to the point of sales, I haven't seen anything about sales either. And if you look at the wording from their social media, they're trying to make it seem, oh, as you put, same thing you said, 1 million copies, 2 million copies, or 2 million, sorry, players. The key word is players. And the metric that I've been using for that, which we don't really know what the console numbers are, right? And I don't even think we know how many console players there are that are playing it right now. But one metric that I'm using, and I brought it up earlier, is Steam, right? Because the last time I checked, the numbers were 50. It couldn't break 60,000 active
Oh yeah,
players.
that's terrible. I'm not gonna lie. 60,000 is like the bare minimum too. So it's
We're it's midnight my time, and they could not bust through 60,000 players. They, they
wow.
they just couldn't. They may have done it now. I haven't checked the numbers. Oh hell, I'll check the numbers right now. But I use Steam as a metric because Steam doesn't have Uplay Plus. Steam doesn't have Games Pass. Steam doesn't have PlayStation Plus or any other free method that these people might be playing the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least with Steam, we know. All right, that's a guaranteed buy that these people are playing on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, less than 60,000 players is abysmal.
Well,
And
I'm
another
back, and I got a new information about this uh, AC Shadow things.
okay.
One, yeah, I just got the phone call from the staff of the one of the politicians I mentioned. I just got it, and they translated official claim, letter of claim from Todaiji as well as the Itate Shrine, the shrine we've been talking about, and to the Ubisoft. It's already sent. They, as I said, no response back. So they translated it, then they will open to the world, put it in the website uh, on the video those politicians make, and they will translate it and explain how things going uh, and in English, in both Japanese and English.
Oh wow.
Once those information
Okay.
is opened, please share. And translation of the letter of claims is done, and they're gonna open it with the video of those predictions. And also, I just got the okay from the staff. And say last August or September, one Japanese lower house member went to the French embassy in Japan to protest the Ishi Shadow's anti-Japanese racism and the Yasuke theory bullshit. But French embassy kicked her out
What?
without listening to anything. And the French embassy put pressure on the Japanese Ministry of Diplomacy to hold all those
Hmm.
discussions among the politicians. That's also true. That information I've got. The reason why the visible action by Japanese politicians has been this slow is one of the reasons is the pressure by uh, French embassy and the Japanese ministries. This is also true. I guarantee. If someone uh, can't believe what I said, and you can ask Mr. Nagase Takeshi, uh, Hyogo Prefecture Assembly member, and ask him, Tomoe, and he'll say yes. And you can also ask him whether he is regularly contacting me or not. He'll say yes. So believe me.
Well,
So
that
as I
answers
said,
that.
I
Yeah, I'm
started.
not gonna lie. Wow.
uh, just to go back to right before Tomoe came back,
Please go back.
59,847 all time on Steam. Unique players.
Yeah, and maybe for console, it could be the same. I'm not sure. It could be around that number as well. And there's also another thing that we have to account for. Let's be honest, half of the million players probably got it through either game codes or Ubisoft Plus, because the game is free on there as well. They have their own like subscription service. So that's not a lot of money in
No.
their pockets right now.
So one thing I'm genuinely curious. No, Tomoe had a question for you about being black and getting the pushback from other people. Thinking that you should be on their side.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, that was a lot. Good question though. Man, it's like, see, it felt like, what was it? It's like a 50v1. It's like either you're too white for that side or you're too black for this side. And I'm just like in the middle. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on? I just stand for common sense. I just stand for reason. And in this case, in this whole discourse, it was all about that, right? The Japanese weren't happy. Their culture was being blatantly disrespected by Ubisoft. And then I was like, well, personally, I'm not Japanese, but I wouldn't like an entire company to just blatantly claim to what was it? What was their claim they made? Like historical accuracy, right? And then completely butcher the whole thing and just make it into some woke fantasy RPG. But yeah, back to the main thing, right? It's just so crazy, man. Honestly, sometimes you just gotta be the black sheep, no pun intended, of course. Yo, yeah, yeah, sometimes you just gotta be the black sheep, you gotta stand for what's right while
So
also trying to keep your side clean as well, if that makes sense.
no, it does, and I, I I'm curious. I mean, do you think that a lot of that is because of our, and I say our because we're not Japanese, but our culture war?
Mm, probably, yeah. I remember what was it? I don't know if Tomoe remembers this, but like this dude, man, he came after Bun
Mhm,
too.
mhm.
Oh my goodness, this guy just railed on me, right? He basically said that I wasn't black because I didn't like AC Shadows, and I'm like, okay, what? And then he went on to say a bunch of random nonsense, how I was far away from the culture, and that you would never be able to get around real black people. And again, I asked him, what is a real black person? Because like I'm just so confused. I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. What makes me not black? Oh my goodness. Like you see the skin, right? I'm like, I'm confused, man. I must be doing it wrong or something. But yeah, that definitely plays a role in it. A
So
lot of these people like to hate on the stereotypes, but yet they contribute to them.
That's what I
and
was
it's a
fixing to
bunch of
ask
back and
you.
forth. Yeah.
The one thing I'm genuinely curious that I have a question about is when you see stuff like these AI images, and I know a lot of this started going around when they were, the whole Yasuke discourse came out of this AI image of a black samurai family, and people were trying to claim, oh, this is real, this is Yasuke, and it was a lot.
Yo, that made me so mad. I'm like, dude, you can obviously tell that it's not real. I try not to entertain any of those, especially if they use AI generated images, because you know they already lost. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just I don't know. You know that one meme, right? Where they go like, "Oh, we was samurai and we was um builders and stuff." You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it goes back to that, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't entertain those because it's obviously not true.
And I hate to say it, but I think a good chunk of this discourse is because of stuff like that, right? Because you have people that genuinely don't know, that believe everything they see, that believe everything they hear, and no matter how much you want to tell them, hey, no, this isn't right, they already got their feet planted in the sand of, well, this is my truth, right? This is my reality.
Yeah. Kind of stupid thing is, well, it's not really about, I think, the shadows, but those DEI people claim non-Japanese people wearing a kimono, which Japanese really love to see, and they say they call it cultural appreciation, but they never talk about cultural appreciation by Ubisoft. Oh, such a double standard.
Mm.
That's crazy. Was uh, Japanese black American baseball player family who are really loved and played 6, 7 years in one team and a kind of flag of the team that years. And they post the family picture in kimono. And Japanese, especially the fans of a team, loved it. But some morons, you know, send a very harmful message as a cultural appreciation, including some of the anti-black racists. But you know, those say racism was slash DEI. Well, it's all mixed up, and those people never really accuse Assassin's Creed Shadows. I just don't understand. I just can't understand why.
Well, that's
Mm.
one of the points that I was making is that with a lot of the people I see defending it, especially here in the states, are people that would be considered on the left side of politics, right? And these are the same people that will screech at you about, appreciating other cultures, about being inclusive, about this, that, and the other. And somehow, when
Mhm.
it comes to this game and when it comes to Japanese history, these are the people saying, no, you're wrong. We need to have it this way, right? Which is, it's completely
Yeah.
backwards.
Mhm.
And if
Mm.
you're
Yep.
sitting there saying, hey, no, this is offensive to their history, this is offensive to their culture, all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're the bad guy.
That's crazy. See, well, get back to the example of the kimono. Non-Japanese wearing kimono. Yeah, often we found that they are not wearing in an authentic way, but that's fine. We love to see them. They look happy in kimono. So some wrong, I say, misinterpretation of wearing is perfectly okay with us. But non-Japanese accuse them of cultural appreciation. I just don't understand why they don't need police Japanese culture. Japanese are okay with it, but at the same time, you know, they call Japanese xenophobic, and gatekeeping Japanese culture when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows. Oh, what a nonsense! What a double standard.
Right. And I think a lot of people can't differentiate between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Two different words,
Mhm.
uh, especially when it comes to clothing, or you get called a larper or a weeb, if you like anything that's Japanese. Even though
Yeah.
you can appreciate other cultures without wanting to be a part of that culture, without wanting to make yourself force yourself to be a part of that culture.
In general, culture in general, well, say cultural interaction in general, there are always a misunderstanding, misinterpretation. So that happens. Like Japanese use lots of borrowed words from English, and they use a different meaning. Like tension in the English word tension in Japan, the word is used more like say excitement, not a tension in real English, but that happens. So it happens all the time and all the way in any part of the world. So misinterpretation between the borrowing culture or cultural interactions are fine. So I personally think cultural appreciation idea of cultural appreciation itself is kind of stupid. As far as there's no intentional slur or disrespect, everything goes. That's what I personally think.
And I have a similar view because a couple 3 months back, I discovered that there was a sizable culture in Japan where
Mhm.
they've taken to like old west gunslinging, and I'm like, that's actually really cool,
Yeah,
because that's actually a huge part of like both Mexican and American culture, and
mhm.
especially here in the Western United States. And I'm just like, that's actually really cool,
Yeah,
you know, um, and that there's other cultures that appreciate that aspect.
yeah,
So
Same thing with Japanese lowrider culture. That's
yeah.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
and
My
I
wife's
apologize if
tea
you hear.
ceremony. Yeah,
Oh, I just wanted to
my
apologize
wife.
real quick.
Oh no, 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 no worries.
No,
My
I
wife's
was just gonna say. I was just gonna say I gotta look for fires. So if you hear outside noises, that's why.
okay. Thank you, thank you. My wife's tea ceremony, Japanese traditional tea ceremony instructor was Black American from New York. Now is in somewhere in the U.S., I guess. But you know, it's cool. It's cool. Black American teaching Japanese traditional culture. That's a cool thing. We love it. Nothing wrong with it. So yeah, but it's a kind of complicated talk about those things with so-called liberal people in America. I'm kind of
Right.
crazy.
I
I
think
just don't
our
get it.
I think our first rodeo with that, to give y'all a southern term, was with
Mhm.
when Ghost of Tsushima was announced, and they had a white guy playing the traditional Japanese flute, and they
Yeah,
were all up in arms. Oh wait, you couldn't get a Japanese person to do this, right? You had to find the only white guy that's that can play the flute.
Dang.
And now it feels like that has gone completely backwards. Now people are saying, "Hey, no, why couldn't you, have just strictly Japanese in this game?" And they're like, "Oh, nope, you can't do that." Wait, what? Y'all were the ones saying.
And also that flute player is big in Japan. I mean, the flute music itself not a big big music industry, but he's supposed to be one of the best in Japan. Very respected. The same as Bunburyodo's Iaido master. See, we are okay with it. Why we are labeled as a xenophobic? I just don't get it.
Well, and that's why I wanted
And
to do this space with you is because we never hear this, actually hear it, like straight from the mouth, the Japanese perspective when it comes to all this, right? We can read it
Thank you.
all day long on social media. We can read articles, we can read this, that, or the other. But when you hear it,
Mhm.
when you hear somebody say something, there's a little bit more weight to it than just reading a post on social media, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
I just
So,
wanted to say,
yes.
I just wanted to say, um,
Mhm.
even if it was true, if Japan was xenophobic,
Mhm.
from a historical perspective, in my opinion,
Mhm.
I really wouldn't be able to blame Japan and the Japanese people for that
Mhm.
because the relations with China, the somewhat forced outside interaction from Europeans, you know um, the current situation with nuisance streamers.
Oh,
You
yep.
know, um, I couldn't bring myself in intellectual honesty to blame Japan for being a bit xenophobic if that were true.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, let's put it this way. Japan is a still very homogeneous society, so many people are not get used to live with non-Japanese people or, you know, as neighbors. So, sure, there are many misbehave based on the misunderstanding or just, you know, people don't know about it. But as a, say, xenophobic, as a kind of racism, that's not really true. Of course, some troublemakers and morons were politically against Japan and the people politically against Japan in Japan. We have a problem, but not really, say, racism like xenophobia. That's what I think. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, situation will get much better. So now we see many half black Japanese kids, half white Japanese kids living, you know, well, living normally, not normally. What's a good word? Just as not a kid. We live together with those kids. So slowly gets better. Of course, at the same time, those conflicts between those morons will be get more serious. I'm afraid. But basically, that's the situation right now here.
yeah, we got those morons too.
But yeah, I don't think I have any more questions, so I don't want to. I don't want to keep you here trapped to the. You have to keep representing
No.
Japanese culture.
Mm,
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great chance to express what I say, what I thinking about it. Also, glad to talk to you people, and at last I can hear your voice, York. Thank you very much.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, sir.
Uh,
Nice talking to you.
thank you,
Yes,
Very nice talking
thank
to
you.
you.
thank you for taking thank you for taking the time to speak with
Yeah.
us.
Mhm.
Yep, thank you. All right, I guess
Oh,
we'll call it here.
yep. Go for the day.
All right.
So
Th-
thank you
Have
very
a
much
good day.
again, and ciao.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Yep. See ya.
All right. There we have it. That was a good conversation. That was enlightening, and I said it in the space of it's different when you hear somebody say something and go, "Hey, this is why I don't like this thing. This is how it affects me. This is how it relates to their own culture versus reading it, right? Because anybody can type anything on the internet, but you hear somebody say something, there's more power behind it. There's more weight. So, yeah, that was a really good conversation. Hopefully, I can end up doing another one of these and getting some more perspectives. Tomoe was one of the louder voices when it comes to the whole Assassin's Creed discourse, and yeah, maybe I can get a few more before all this is said and done, or if there's any updates. Which, I mean, we had an update right in the middle of the space that the Japanese government and the Shrine Associations are serious about, coming for Ubisoft and what they did with the game. So we'll see what happens with that. I'll cover that whenever that actually comes out. I will also link the paper that Dr. Nade, or Dr. Alaric, sorry, wrote when it comes to Yasuke and the facts behind Yasuke. So that'll be in the description of this.